The cold wind blew across the empty streets of what was once called New York City. Commander Vexhai pulled his thick coat tighter as he walked through the frozen ruins. Ice covered everything. The tall buildings looked like giant ice sculptures, reaching toward the gray sky. His team of scientists followed behind him, their boots making crunching sounds on the frozen ground. They had been studying the dead human worlds for 20 years now. Every city they found was the same: empty, cold, silent. "Commander, look at this," called Dr. Kethmore from inside what used to be a human building. The Zephyrian scientist was kneeling next to a wall covered in strange symbols and numbers. Vexhai walked over and looked at the markings. The humans had carved them deep into the metal wall. Even after 1,000 years, the symbols were still clear and sharp. "What do you think they mean?" Vexhai asked. Dr. Kethmore ran his four-fingered hand over the symbols. "The math is very good, very exact. It is hard to believe such a simple species could do work like this." Vexhai nodded. Everyone in the galaxy knew the story of the humans. They had been a young species barely able to travel between stars. Their technology was basic compared to the great civilizations that ruled the galaxy now. Yet somehow, they had spread to over 100 worlds before they disappeared. The mystery of their vanishing still puzzled the greatest minds in the galaxy. One day humans were there, building cities and sending messages across space. The next day, they were gone. All of them. 12 billion people had simply vanished without any explanation. The last message from Earth had been strange and short. It said only, "We go to prepare the way." No one knew what it meant. No distress signals, no calls for help, no signs of war or disaster. They just left. The Galactic Council had waited 50 years for the humans to return. When they did not come back, the Council declared their worlds empty and free for anyone to claim. Now 47 different alien species lived on planets that humans had once called home. Far away from the frozen Earth, in the deep darkness of space, something was stirring. Captain Roy Bennett opened his eyes slowly as the cold sleep machine finished waking him up. His body felt stiff and strange after sleeping for so long. Around him, thousands of other humans were waking up too. The ship was filled with the sounds of people stretching, coughing, and talking quietly as they came back to life. "Eddie, how long were we asleep?" Roy asked the ship's computer. "Captain Bennett, you have been in cold sleep for 1,043 years, 7 months, and 16 days, the computer answered in a calm voice. Roy sat up and looked around the huge room full of sleeping chambers. 10,000 humans had traveled on his ship alone. There were 26 other ships just like his, all carrying sleeping humans across the vast emptiness between galaxies. "Eddie, scan the area around us. What do you see?" "Captain, I am detecting many alien ships in this part of space. It appears the galaxy is no longer empty." Lieutenant Lisa Martinez walked over to Roy, moving carefully on legs that had not been used for over 1,000 years. "Captain, the other ships are reporting in. All 27 ships made the journey safely. Everyone is waking up." Roy nodded and smiled. The great journey was finished. Humanity had spent 1,000 years traveling through space, but they had not been sleeping the whole time. They had been learning, growing, and preparing for this moment. "Lisa, get me a report on what we're seeing out there. I want to know who our new neighbors are." Back on Earth, Dr. Kethmore was making an important discovery. Deep under the ice and snow, his team had found an entrance to something huge. The door was made of metal that would not break or melt no matter what they tried. "Commander, we have found something big," Dr. Kethmore called on his radio. "There is a facility under the ground. It is very large, but we cannot get inside." Vexhai rushed to the location. The entrance was a simple door built into the side of a mountain, but the metal was like nothing he had ever seen. It seemed to glow with its own light, and their strongest tools could not even scratch it. "How deep does it go?" Vexhai asked. "Our scanners cannot tell us. The metal blocks all our signals. But the size must be enormous." "The door itself is 30 feet tall." Vexhai stared at the strange door. What had the humans been hiding under their planet? And why had they made it so hard to open? Meanwhile, Captain Roy Bennett was studying the reports from his scouts. The galaxy had changed completely while humanity was away. Dozens of alien species now controlled space that had once been empty. Their technology was good, but not as good as what humans had possessed even before they left. "This is interesting," Roy said to Lisa. "They have spread everywhere, but they are still using the same basic technology we had 1,000 years ago." "Maybe that is how they were able to expand so fast," Lisa replied. "They did not need to be very advanced. They just needed time to grow and spread while we were gone." Roy smiled. The other species had no idea what was coming. Humanity had not spent their 1,000-year journey just traveling. They had been working, learning and building. They had become something new, something more than what they were when they left. "Eddie, send a message to the other ships. Tell them to prepare for contact with the local species, but tell them to be careful about what technology they show." "Yes, Captain. Should I also activate the deep scanning systems?" "Not yet, Eddie. Let's see what our new neighbors are like first." On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Vexhai received an urgent message. Alien ships had been detected near the edge of Zephyrian space. The ships looked like they were built by humans, but that was impossible. Humans had been gone for 1,000 years. Admiral Zakthos, the commander of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet, could not believe the reports. "Are you certain these are human ships?" "Yes, Admiral," his communications officer replied. "The design matches the old records exactly, but the energy readings are strange. These ships are much more powerful than the old human vessels should be." Admiral Zakthos felt worried. If humans had returned, where had they been for 1,000 years? And why were their ships so much more advanced than before? "Send a message to the Galactic Council immediately. Tell them the humans have come back." The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council brought together leaders from all over the galaxy. Representatives from 47 different species gathered to discuss the impossible news. The crystalline hegemony speaker, a being made of pure energy, pulsed with concern. "This cannot be true. Our deep space monitors have watched every part of the galaxy for centuries. We have seen no sign of human technology anywhere." "Yet the reports are clear," replied the Zephyrian ambassador. "Ships matching human designs are approaching our borders. They carry energy signatures we have never seen before." Meanwhile, on the human ship Genesis, Captain Roy Bennett was preparing for first contact with their new galactic neighbors. The moment humanity had spent 1,000 years preparing for was finally here. "Lisa, are the diplomatic protocols ready?" "Yes, Captain. Commander Jake Morrison will lead our first contact team. He has studied all the alien cultures we have observed." Roy looked out at the stars through the ship's main window. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were trying to understand how humanity had returned. They had no idea that humanity's disappearance had never been an ending. It had been a beginning. "Eddie, open a channel to all human ships. It is time to let the galaxy know we are home." The alarm bells rang throughout the Zephyrian patrol ship Bright Star. Captain Velquan rushed to the bridge, his 6 legs moving quickly across the metal floor. His crew was staring at their screens with wide eyes and open mouths. "Captain, you need to see this," said his science officer, Lieutenant Mordai. "Ships are coming out of... well, we are not sure what they are coming out of." Velquan looked at the main screen. Space itself seemed to be tearing open like fabric. Bright holes appeared in the darkness and ships were flying through them. The holes closed behind the ships, leaving no trace they had ever been there. "How many ships?" Velquan asked. 27 large vessels, Captain. Each one is about 3 miles long. The energy readings are off our charts." Velquan felt his blood run cold. Ships that big could carry millions of beings, and the technology to tear holes in space was far beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. "Send an emergency message to Admiral Zakthos. Tell him we have a situation." On the bridge of the human ship Genesis, Captain Roy Bennett watched the alien patrol ship through his main screen. The Zephyrian vessel was small and simple compared to human ships, but it was the first alien contact humanity had made in over 1,000 years. "Eddie, what can you tell me about that ship?" Captain, it appears to use fusion engines for power and basic metal plating for protection. Their weapons are projectile-based, similar to what humanity used 800 years ago. The ship carries approximately 200 crew members. Lieutenant Lisa Martinez looked up from her station. Captain, they are sending radio messages. It sounds like they are calling for help. Roy nodded. As expected. Eddie, can you translate their language? Yes. Captain, I have been analyzing their transmissions for the past several minutes. I can now understand and speak their language perfectly. Good. Open a communication channel. Let's introduce ourselves. Admiral Zakthos arrived at the Zephyrian Defense Command just as the reports were coming in from all over their territory. Human ships were appearing everywhere, but they were not attacking. They were just waiting. How many ships total? The Admiral asked his aide. Over 300, sir. They are positioned near all of our major worlds, but they are staying outside our defense zones. It is like they are asking permission to enter. Admiral Zakthos studied the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a pattern that showed military discipline, but also respect for Zephyrian space. They were close enough to be a threat, but far enough away to avoid starting a fight. Have they tried to communicate? Yes, sir. We are receiving messages in perfect Zephyrian language. They are requesting permission to send a diplomatic team to meet with our leaders. The Admiral felt confused. How did extinct humans know how to speak Zephyrian? And why were they being so polite about entering space that had once belonged to them? Send word to the Galactic Council. Tell them we need an emergency meeting, and tell the humans we will meet with their diplomats. The meeting took place on Galactic Station Prime, a huge space station that served as the center of galactic government. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in the Great Council chamber to witness humanity's return. Commander, Jake Morrison walked into the chamber wearing a simple blue uniform. He was tall and thin, with short brown hair and calm green eyes. Behind him walked two other humans, a man and a woman, both wearing similar uniforms. The alien representatives stared at the humans with fascination. After 1,000 years, humans looked exactly the same as they had before they disappeared. They had not evolved or changed in any visible way. Ambassador Thelvas of the Zephyrian Empire spoke first. His voice came through the universal translator as a deep, serious tone. Humans of Earth, your species was declared extinct 1,000 years ago. Our records show your last transmission was, "We go to prepare the way." Where have you been, Commander? Morrison smiled politely. Ambassador Thelvas, we have been on a long journey. We left the galaxy to explore beyond its borders and to prepare for our eventual return. We are pleased to see how much the galaxy has grown and changed in our absence. A representative from the crystalline hegemony, a being that looked like a walking diamond, pulsed with blue light as it spoke. You say you left the galaxy. That is impossible. No species has the technology to travel between galaxies. We do now, Morrison replied simply. The chamber fell silent. Travel between galaxies required technology that was beyond anything the current galactic civilizations could imagine. If humans could do that, what else could they do? Ambassador Thelvas continued the questioning. Your former territories now house over 40 billion beings from 16 different species. The Galactic Council declared those worlds abandoned and open for settlement. What are your intentions regarding these worlds? Morrison's expression did not change, but something in his voice made several aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. Ambassador, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Those worlds were never abandoned. They were simply, temporarily unoccupied. What do you mean? Asked the crystalline representative. We mean that we always planned to return. We left those worlds prepared for our homecoming. We are hoping to work with the current inhabitants to find a solution that benefits everyone. Admiral Zakthos leaned forward in his chair. Commander Morrison, with respect, those worlds have been settled for centuries. Billions of beings have been born there. They consider those planets their homes. Morrison nodded understandingly. We know, Admiral. That is why we are here talking instead of simply taking back what belongs to us. We prefer to solve problems through discussion rather than force. The Zephyrian admiral felt a chill at those words. The way Morrison said, "taking back what belongs to us," suggested that humanity had the power to do exactly that if they chose. 2. "What kind of solution are you proposing?" asked a representative from the Aquatic Federation. Morrison smiled. "We are prepared to offer compensation and relocation assistance to any beings who wish to leave our worlds. For those who wish to stay, we are prepared to offer full citizenship in the new human federation, with all the benefits that includes." "And what benefits would those be?" asked Ambassador Thelvis. "Technology sharing, extended lifespans, unlimited energy, faster than light travel that makes current methods look like walking, and protection under human military forces." The aliens looked at each other with confusion and concern. The humans were offering things that sounded too good to be true. "You speak of technology we have never seen," said the crystalline representative. "How do we know you actually possess these capabilities?" Commander Morrison looked at his two companions, then back at the assembled aliens. "Would you like a demonstration?" "What kind of demonstration?" Admiral Zakthos asked carefully. "We could show you one of our ships, or perhaps you would prefer to see what we have done with Earth since our return." Ambassador Thelvis felt his hearts beating faster. "What do you mean, what you have done with Earth?" "Our long-range sensors show Earth as a frozen, dead world." Morrison's smile became wider. "Ambassador, your sensors are seeing what we want them to see. Earth has not been dead for quite some time." The aliens began talking among themselves in worried voices. If humans could hide an entire planet from galactic sensors, what else were they hiding? "Commander Morrison," said the Aquatic Federation representative, "your species left the galaxy as a young, relatively primitive civilization. You returned claiming to possess technology far beyond anything we know. How is this possible?" Morrison looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at him. "Representative, humanity spent 1,000 years traveling to another galaxy and back. We did not spend that time sleeping. We spent it learning, growing, and preparing for this moment." "Learning from whom?" asked the crystalline being. "From ourselves. From the universe. From civilizations that make your current technology look like stone tools." The chamber fell completely silent. The implications were staggering. If humans had made contact with super-advanced civilizations, they might now possess technology that could reshape the entire galaxy. Admiral Zakthos spoke for everyone present. "Commander Morrison, what exactly are you asking from the Galactic Council?" Morrison's answer was simple but loaded with meaning. "Recognition of our territorial claims, full membership in the Galactic Council with appropriate representation based on our capabilities, and cooperation in establishing peaceful relationships with all galactic civilizations." "And if the Council refuses?" asked Ambassador Thelvis. Morrison's expression remained friendly, but his words carried an undertone that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. "Ambassador, we would prefer not to discuss that possibility. We believe cooperation is always better than the alternatives." The meeting ended with the aliens requesting time to consider humanity's proposals. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Commander Morrison made one final statement. "Honored representatives, humanity left the galaxy 1,000 years ago, as children playing with fire. We have returned as adults who understand how to harness the stars themselves. We hope you will choose to join us in building a better future for all species." As the humans walked out of the chamber, every alien present understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The question now was whether that change would be peaceful or not. Dr. Kethmore had been trying to open the mysterious door for 3 weeks. His team had used every tool they could think of. Lasers, explosives, acid, extreme heat, extreme cold. Nothing worked. The strange metal door under the mountain would not even get a scratch. "Dr. Kethmore, come quickly," called his assistant, a young Zephyrian named Telvan. "Something is happening." The doctor rushed over to where Telvan was pointing. The door was beginning to glow brighter. Symbols were appearing on its surface, symbols that looked like they were being written by an invisible hand. "What does it say?" Dr. Kethmore asked. "I am not sure," The symbols are human, but they are also in our language somehow. It says, "Welcome, home, humanity, defensive systems activating." Dr. Kethmore felt his 4 hearts skip a beat. Get everyone back. Get them back now. The door suddenly opened without any sound. Behind it was a tunnel that seemed to go down forever. Lights came on automatically, showing walls made of the same strange metal as the door. The tunnel was big, enough for 10 people to walk side by side. Should we go inside? Telvan asked. Before Dr. Kethmore could answer, a figure appeared in the tunnel. It was a human, but the doctor could see through him like he was made of light. "Greetings," the figure said in perfect Zephyrian. "I am Dr. Alan Carter, director of the Deep Archive Project. If you are seeing this message, it means humanity has returned to reclaim our worlds." Dr. Kethmore stepped forward. "Dr. Carter, I am Dr. Kethmore of the Zephyrian Archaeological Society. We have been studying your ruins for many years." The holographic human smiled. "Dr. Kethmore, your work has been noted and appreciated. However, I must inform you that these are not ruins. This facility has been active and operational for the past 1,000 years. "That is impossible," Dr. Kethmore said. "Our sensors show no power readings, no energy signatures." "Your sensors see what we want them to see," Dr. Carter replied. "Now please step back. Security protocols are engaging." The walls around them began to change. What had looked like stone suddenly revealed itself to be advanced technology. Weapons emerged from hidden panels. Energy barriers appeared across the tunnel entrance. The entire mountain seemed to come alive. "Warning," Dr. Carter's hologram announced. "This facility is now under human military control. All non-human personnel must evacuate immediately." Dr. Kethmore and his team ran back to their vehicles as fast as they could. Behind them, more lights were coming on inside the mountain. The ground began to vibrate as massive machines woke up after centuries of sleep. Similar things were happening all across the galaxy. On every world that humans had once lived on, ancient systems were coming online. Defense satellites that had been floating in space like dead rocks suddenly began moving and powering up. Shield generators buried deep in the ground started creating protective barriers around entire planets. Admiral Zakthos received the reports from dozens of worlds at the same time. His communication officers could barely keep up with all the emergency messages coming in. "Admiral, we are getting reports from every human world in our territory," said his aide, Lieutenant Jektar. "Ancient defense systems are activating everywhere. Power readings are off our scales." "Show me," the Admiral ordered. The main screen displayed a map of Zephyrian space. Red warning lights were flashing on 47 different worlds. Energy readings from each planet were climbing higher and higher. "Sir, some of these readings suggest weapons that could destroy entire moons," Lieutenant Jektar said with a shaking voice. Admiral Zakthos stared at the display. For 1,000 years, his people had been living on top of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. They had never known it was there. "Get me a direct line to the human diplomatic team. Now." On the bridge of the Genesis, Captain Roy Bennett watched the reports coming in from across human space. Every deep archive facility was coming online exactly as planned. 1,000 years of preparation were finally paying off. "Eddie, status report on the defensive systems. Captain, all planetary defense networks are now active. Shield generators are operating at full power. Orbital weapons platforms are armed and ready. All systems are functioning within normal parameters." Lieutenant Lisa Martinez looked up from her station. "Captain, we are receiving urgent communications from every major galactic power. They want immediate explanations for what they are calling planet killer level defensive systems." Roy smiled coldly. "Tell them we will be happy to discuss the matter. Invite their leaders to come to Earth for negotiations. It is time they saw what humanity has become." "Sir, should I give them the real coordinates for Earth?" Lisa asked. "Yes, Lisa. It is time to stop hiding." The Galactic Council's emergency fleet arrived at Earth expecting to find a dead, frozen world. Instead, they found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. Earth was alive. More than alive, it was thriving. The frozen oceans were gone, replaced by blue water that sparkled in the sunlight. Green continents showed vast cities that stretched from one horizon to the other. The planet was surrounded by rings of space stations, each one larger than some moons. Admiral Zakthos commanded the Council fleet from his flagship, the Righteous Path. He stared at Earth through the main screen, unable to believe what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he said to his science officer, a nervous crystalline named Veltar. "Our long-range sensors showed this planet as dead just weeks ago." Veltar pulsed with confused colors. "Admiral, the energy readings from this planet suggest it has been actively inhabited for approximately 1,000 years. Somehow they were completely hidden from our sensors." "How many people live down there?" the Admiral asked. "Based on the city lights visible from space, I estimate at least 100 billion humans, sir. Possibly more." Admiral Zakthos felt dizzy. 100 billion humans on a single planet meant humanity's total population was far larger than any other species in the galaxy. A communication came from the largest space station. "Galactic Council Fleet, this is New Geneva Station. You are welcome to dock with our facility. President Kate Sullivan is waiting to meet with you." The Admiral decided to take only a small diplomatic team to the human station. As his shuttle approached the docking bay, he got his first close look at human technology. The space station seemed to be made of materials that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. Energy fields held the atmosphere in place instead of solid walls. Through transparent sections, he could see views of space that were impossible. The stars were arranged in patterns that hurt his mind to look at. President Kate Sullivan met the alien delegation in a chamber that appeared to be carved from a single massive crystal. She looked like a human woman in her 30s, but her eyes held depths that suggested centuries of experience. "Welcome to New Geneva Station, Admiral Zakthos," she said in perfect Zephyrian. "I trust your journey was comfortable?" Admiral Zakthos gestured with all four of his arms in confusion. "Madam President, our scans show this entire station is built from materials that do not exist in our scientific knowledge. How is this possible?" President Sullivan smiled. "Admiral, humanity had 1,000 years to prepare for this day. We did not spend that time sleeping." "But how did you hide all of this from our sensors?" asked the crystalline representative Veltar. "We learned to manipulate electromagnetic radiation at the quantum level," President Sullivan explained as if she were talking about simple math. "Making our worlds invisible to your sensors was actually one of the easier things we accomplished." "Admiral," Zakthos felt overwhelmed. "President Sullivan, when your species left the galaxy, you were barely more advanced than we are now. How did you achieve such incredible progress in just 1,000 years?" President Sullivan walked over to a window that showed the Earth spinning below them. "Admiral, imagine if your entire civilization focused on one goal for 1,000 years. No wars, no conflicts, no wasted effort. Every mind working together toward the same purpose. That is what humanity did during our great journey." "What purpose?" Admiral Zakthos asked. "Survival," President Sullivan replied. "We knew that when we returned, the galaxy would be different. We knew we would need to be stronger, smarter, and more advanced than anyone could imagine. So we made ourselves that way." She turned back to face the alien delegation. "We traveled to other galaxies, Admiral. We met civilizations that were millions of years old. We learned from them. We traded with them. Some of them even came back with us." "Other species came with you?" Veltar pulsed with excitement. "A few. Most preferred to stay in their own galaxies, but they gave us knowledge, technology, and most importantly, perspective." Admiral Zakthos struggled to understand what he was hearing. "What kind of perspective?" President Sullivan's expression became serious. "They taught us to think in terms of millions of years instead of decades. They showed us how to build civilizations that last forever. They helped us understand that the greatest weapon is not the ability to destroy, but the ability to create." "Then why are you activating weapons all across the galaxy?" Admiral Zakthos demanded. "Because, Admiral, we learned that the universe is not a safe place. There are things out there that make our current galactic civilizations look like children playing with toys. We need to be ready for what is coming. The room fell silent. The demonstration was planned for the Kepler system, far away from any inhabited worlds. Representatives from every major galactic power came to witness what humanity could do. They arrived in their best warships, thinking they were prepared for anything. They were wrong. President Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the human flagship Redemption. The ship looked like it was made from living metal that moved and flowed like water. Alien observers watched from a safe distance as the human vessel approached a dead planet that had been chosen for the test. Honored delegates, President Sullivan announced over the open communication channels, humanity wishes to demonstrate our current capabilities. This will help avoid any misunderstandings about our intentions or abilities. Admiral Zakthos watched from his observation ship, the Righteous Path. His crew was nervous. The human ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. Their sensors could not even tell what it was made of. Admiral, his science officer Veltar reported, I am getting energy readings from the human ship that make no sense. The power output is beyond our ability to measure. How is that possible? Admiral Zakthos asked. I do not know, sir. Our instruments are simply not advanced enough to understand their technology. On the bridge of the Redemption, Commander Steve Rogers stood at the weapons station. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes. Madam President, Singularity. Cannon charged and ready. Target locked on the test planet. President Sullivan nodded. Fire when ready, Commander. The weapon that struck the planet was invisible to normal sensors. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the target world. For a moment, nothing appeared to happen. Then the planet began to collapse inward, getting smaller and smaller. The aliens watched in horror as an entire world was compressed into a point no bigger than a marble. The compressed matter formed a tiny black hole that immediately exploded in a burst of energy that lit up the entire solar system. The silence across all communication channels lasted for a full minute. Finally, Admiral Zakthos managed to speak. You just created and destroyed a black hole as a weapons demonstration. President Sullivan's voice remained calm. That was our standard planetary defense system, Admiral. We have not shown you our military-grade weapons yet. Dr. Kethmore, watching from the Zephyrian science vessel, was frantically trying to understand what his instruments were telling him. The energy required to do that should need the power of an entire star. How did they control that much energy from a single ship? Colonel Dan Parker, humanity's chief science officer, answered over the open channel. Doctor, we have had 1,000 years to study physics while the rest of the galaxy was spreading through space we had already mapped. We learned to control matter and energy at the smallest levels. What you saw was basic engineering for us. The political implications hit every alien representative at the same time. If humanity could destroy planets with ease, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? The crystalline hegemony's ambassador spoke for everyone. If humanity possesses this level of technology, why have you not simply taken back your territories? By force? President Sullivan's answer made every alien present feel cold. Because, Ambassador, we are not the same species that left Earth 1,000 years ago. We have grown beyond the need for conquest. We prefer cooperation, but we will not allow others to occupy our worlds. General Lisa Martinez, now commander of all human military forces, added her own thoughts. We spent our 1,000-year journey learning to think in terms of centuries and millennia, not years and decades. Every decision we make is planned for its effects 1,000 years in the future. We planned this return before we ever left. The final revelation came when President Sullivan activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Thousands of points of light appeared, showing hidden human installations, monitoring stations, and automated defense systems. We have been watching, learning, and preparing since the day we left, President Sullivan explained. Every major galactic event of the past 1,000 years has been monitored and recorded. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, your political systems, and your technology better than you know them yourselves. Admiral Zakthos felt a chill that had nothing to do with his ship's life support systems. You have been watching us for 1,000 years? Observing, Admiral. We knew we would return to a changed galaxy. We wanted to understand what we would find and how to live peacefully with our new neighbors. The question now is whether that peace will be as partners or as something else. Ambassador Thelvas of the Zephyrian Empire found his voice. What do you mean by something else? President Sullivan's expression became serious. Ambassador, we have the power to take back our worlds by force. We have the technology to reshape this galaxy according to our wishes. But we choose not to do that. We prefer to work together with you. And if we refuse to work with you? Asked the representative from the Aquatic Federation. General Martinez answered that question. Then you become irrelevant. We do not need your resources, your technology, or your cooperation to thrive. But we would prefer to have your friendship. Colonel Parker stepped forward with another revelation. There is something else you need to understand. The worlds you have been living on for the past 1,000 years were never truly abandoned. They were prepared for our return. Dr. Kethmore's voice came over the communication system, filled with confusion. What do you mean, prepared, Doctor? Every world that humanity once controlled was seeded with technology and infrastructure designed to support our eventual homecoming. The cities you built, the resources you developed, the populations you grew, all of it was planned and encouraged by hidden human systems. The implications were staggering. The crystalline hegemony's ambassador pulsed with shock. You are saying our entire colonization of human space was planned, that you wanted us to develop these worlds for your return? President Sullivan nodded. We learned patience during our long journey. We knew that when we returned we would need developed worlds with established populations and working economies. Building all of that from scratch would have taken centuries. So we designed our worlds to encourage exactly the kind of development you achieved. You have been manipulating us for 1,000 years, Admiral Zakthos said, his voice filled with anger and fear. Not manipulating, Admiral. Guiding. Every species that settled on human worlds received exactly what they needed to thrive. Better soil, cleaner water, more stable weather, richer mineral deposits. You succeeded because we wanted you to succeed. Colonel Parker brought up another display showing the hidden systems on each human world. The infrastructure you built connected perfectly with our hidden networks. The cities you placed were in the exact locations we had planned for them. Even your population distribution followed patterns we had designed. How is that possible? Asked the representative from the Insectoid Collective. Because we studied you, learned about you, and understood how each species would naturally develop given the right conditions. We simply provided those conditions and let you do what came naturally. President Sullivan looked around at all the alien representatives. You have been our partners for 1,000 years. You just did not know it. Now we are asking you to continue that partnership openly and willingly. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Zakthos. What exactly are you proposing? Full territorial recognition of our ancestral worlds, with compensation and relocation assistance for any beings who wish to leave. For those who choose to stay, full citizenship in the Human Federation with all the benefits that includes. What benefits? Asked Ambassador Thelvas. General Martinez smiled. Technology that will extend your lifespans by centuries, energy systems that will power your civilizations for millennia, medical advances that will eliminate most diseases, manufacturing techniques that will end scarcity, and protection under human military forces against threats you cannot even imagine. What threats? The crystalline ambassador asked. President, Sullivan's expression became grave. The universe is vast and not everything in it is friendly. During our travels, we encountered civilizations that view entire galaxies as resources to be consumed. They are coming, and when they arrive, we will need to be ready. When? Admiral Zakthos asked quietly. Our calculations suggest we have approximately 500 years to prepare. That is why we return now, instead of waiting longer. We need time to build alliances, share technology, and create defenses that can protect our entire galaxy. Colonel Parker added the final piece of information. The demonstration you witnessed today, the destruction of that planet, that weapon, would barely scratch the hull of one of their scout ships. The enemies coming toward us make our current galactic civilizations look like insects. President Sullivan concluded the demonstration with words that would reshape galactic politics forever. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, humanity offers you a choice. Join us as partners in preparing for what is coming, and share in technology that will make the next 1,000 years a golden age for all species. Or continue as you are and face the future alone. The Galactic Council meeting lasted for 3 weeks. Representatives from 47 different species argued, debated, and worried about humanity's offer. Some wanted to accept immediately. Others wanted to fight. Most were simply scared. Ambassador Thelvas presented the Zephyrian position to his government back home. He stood before Premier Volthas and the ruling council, his voice tired from weeks of negotiations. They are offering us energy systems that could power our entire civilization for thousands of years, Thelvas explained. Medical technology that could make our people live 10 times longer. Manufacturing methods that could end hunger and poverty across all our worlds. Premier Volthas, an ancient Zephyrian who had lived for over 2 centuries, listened carefully. And the price for these gifts? They want us to recognize their right to their ancestral worlds and accept them as the strongest military power in the galaxy, Thelvas replied. They also want us to help them prepare for the enemies they say are coming. What choice do we have? Asked another council member. They have shown they could take what they want by force. At least this way we get something in return. Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Every species had to decide whether to trust humanity or try to stand against them. President Kate Sullivan waited patiently in her office on New Geneva Station. Through her window she could see Earth spinning slowly below, its cities glowing like jewels in the darkness. Reports were coming in from human diplomatic teams across the galaxy. General Lisa Martinez entered the office carrying a data pad. Madam President, we have responses from 38 species so far. Most are agreeing to the partnership. A few are asking for more time. Only 3 have refused outright. Which 3? President Sullivan asked. The warrior clans of Bathos, the machine collective of Sector 7, and the hive mind of the Outer Rim. President Sullivan nodded. She had expected some resistance. What are their objections? The warriors say they will not bow to any species, human or otherwise. The machines claim they do not need organic allies. The hive mind believes they can handle any threat alone. And what do you recommend, General? Lisa Martinez smiled coldly. Let them see what happens to those who refuse our protection when the real enemy arrives. Sometimes the best teacher is experience. 6 months later, the formal negotiations were complete. The Treaty of New Geneva was signed by representatives from 44 galactic civilizations. The 3 holdout species maintained their independence but lost all access to human technology and protection. The changes began immediately. Human technology flowed to their new partners in carefully controlled amounts. Fusion power plants were replaced by zero-point energy generators that drew power from the quantum foam of space itself. Hospitals received medical scanners that could repair damage at the cellular level. Factories got manufacturing systems that could build anything from raw atoms. Captain Roy Bennett, now Admiral of the human fleet, stood on the bridge of the Genesis as it prepared for humanity's next great journey. The ship had been completely rebuilt with new technology, but Roy had insisted on keeping the old name and basic design. Eddie, status report on the Deep Space Initiative, Roy said to the ship's AI, Admiral. All 27 colony ships have been equipped with the new dimensional drive systems. The volunteer crews for the Andromeda Galaxy expedition are ready for departure. Estimated time to establish the first extragalactic human colonies, 50 years. Roy smiled. Humanity was not content to stay in just one galaxy, even with all their new responsibilities. Eddie, send a message to President Sullivan. Tell her the next phase of the great journey is ready to begin. Meanwhile, Dr. Kethmore was experiencing wonders he had never imagined possible. As part of the new partnership, he had been invited to study on Earth itself. The human homeworld was like a living museum of advanced technology and natural beauty. This is incredible, he said to his human guide, Dr. Susan Blake. They were standing in a laboratory that existed partially in normal space and partially in what humans called hyperspace. How do you make buildings that exist in multiple dimensions? Doctor, Blake smiled. We learned that reality is much more flexible than most species realize. Once you understand how space and time really work, you can build almost anything. They walked through research facilities where human scientists worked alongside beings from dozens of different species. The partnership was creating new discoveries. Every day as different types of minds worked together on the same problems. Dr. Kethmore, Dr. Blake said, "Would you like to see something really special?" She led him to a secure section of the facility where a massive device hummed with barely contained energy. Through a viewing window, they could see what looked like a small piece of the sun floating in a containment field. "What is it?" Dr. Kethmore asked. "We call it a stellar forge. It can create any element in the periodic table by fusing lighter elements together. This particular unit can produce enough rare metals in one day to supply your entire civilization for a year." Dr. Kethmore felt overwhelmed. The implications were staggering. With technology like this, scarcity would become a thing of the past. No more wars over resources, no more poverty, no more limits on what civilizations could accomplish. "Why are you sharing this with us?" he asked. Dr. Blake's expression became serious. "Because we need all the help we can get for what is coming. The enemies approaching our galaxy do not think like we do. They see entire star systems as raw materials, entire species as obstacles to be removed. Have you encountered them before?" "Once during our travels. We barely escaped. That encounter taught us that we could never be strong enough alone. We need partners, allies, friends who will stand with us when the time comes." 3. Years after the Treaty of New Geneva, the first test came. Long-range sensors detected massive objects moving toward the galaxy from the direction of the Magellanic Clouds. The objects were traveling faster than anything the galactic civilizations had thought possible. Admiral Zakthos, now serving as the alien liaison to the Human Defense Force, received the alert on his new ship. The vessel was a joint Zephyrian-human design that combined the best of both technologies. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "Human Command is requesting all Allied ships to report to designated defense positions." "How many ships are responding?" Admiral Zakthos asked. "Over 10,000, sir. Every species that signed. The treaty is sending their best vessels." The defense fleet that assembled was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships with reality-bending weapons worked alongside Zephyrian vessels equipped with human shield generators. Crystalline, hegemony energy beings provided power to massive orbital defense platforms. Aquatic Federation bioships carried weapons that could turn matter into energy. President Sullivan addressed the combined fleet from the Bridge of the Redemption. "Defenders of the galaxy, today we face our first real test. The enemy scouts approaching. Us are just the beginning. How we handle them will determine whether our galaxy survives what comes next." The enemy scouts turned out to be machines the size of small moons, made from materials that absorbed energy instead of reflecting it. They moved through space without any visible propulsion, bending reality around them as they traveled. Analysis complete, Colonel Dan Parker reported to the Human Command staff. "These are probe units designed to test our defenses and gather information. The real invasion force is probably still centuries away." "How many of them?" General Martinez asked. 12 scouts approaching from different directions. They are trying to map our defensive capabilities. President Sullivan made the decision that would define humanity's relationship with their galactic partners. All ships engage the enemy. Show them what our united galaxy can do. The battle lasted only minutes, but it changed everything. The combined fleet destroyed all 12 enemy scouts without losing a single ship. The alien species that had feared humanity's power now saw it used to protect them. After the battle, Admiral Zakthos sent a message to all the species that had refused to join the alliance. "The Human Federation and its allies have successfully defended our galaxy against an advanced enemy. This offer of protection remains open to any who wish to join us." Within a year, all 3 holdout species had requested membership in the alliance. 5. Years after humanity's return, the galaxy was transformed. Trade flowed freely between species using human transportation networks. Scientific discoveries were shared instantly across thousands of worlds. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were eliminated. Poverty became a historical curiosity. Most importantly, the galaxy was united in a way it had never been before. 47 different species worked together as partners, preparing for threats from beyond their small corner of the universe. Admiral Roy Bennett stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, looking out at a galaxy filled with ships, stations, and worlds working together. Humanity had returned as conquerors, but they had chosen to become protectors instead. "Eddie," he said to the station's AI, "what is the status of our long-range exploration programs?" "Admiral, we now have permanent bases in 14 different galaxies. Our deep space monitoring network covers approximately 1% of the known universe.